us a little about yourself and how you came to be here and any challenges you've had along the way.
Well, I'm actually from Zimbabwe, and my initial plan was to be a lawyer in South Africa. So I've come along quite an unusual journey to be where I am today. It's definitely not where I've planned, but I'm really happy that I did have the challenges that I had along the way, because if I hadn't had to solve for them, then I wouldn't be where I am today, and I don't think there's a place that I'd rather be. I was educated in South Africa, and I was the first person in my family to be educated, so didn't know too much about career research, so I didn't understand that South Africa is the only country you actually have to be a citizen to practice law. So while I graduated with a law degree, I actually couldn't practice, so I went on to lecture, which was an amazing experience. And while I was doing that, was recognised by a consulting firm and given an opportunity to actually undertake an internship. They weren't willing to quite commit because I didn't have an engineering or a business degree. I actually had a BA LLB. And it was awesome because I got to go and do a whole lot of different stuff and solve different problems, not very hands-on problems. And understanding that there were some gaps in my knowledge, I wanted to learn about the practicalities of business, join an implementation firm, and that brought a whole lot of new challenges because not only was I pretty much the only non-engineer in the firm, I was one of the only women, and they actually work across lots of different countries and unusual environments, and I had to go into lots of different environments as a woman where women don't normally go. So that was pretty interesting and exciting, and I was fortunate enough to develop a range of experience that BHP then offered me a job in Australia. And I've been here for the last year. I've done 2 big projects, both of which I really enjoyed. So it's been a journey. It's been one that's been full of challenges, but I've been grateful for all of them.
During your time in Queensland, have you had the opportunity to promote the resource sector's social licence to operate?
I'm pretty lucky to work at BHP, which has a fantastic graduate program. And as a part of that program, I had the opportunity to meet with applicants and to not only interview them, but have them ask me all their tough questions about the industry. You know, a strong theme has been the negative perception that they see their peers have of the resources sector, and asking me how I feel about working within an industry that has that negative perception around it. And, you know, I'm very proud to work in the resources sector. And when you really break it down and you look at what we contribute to, you know, not just the economy, but to the communities, and you have a really robust discussion, that's something that I've really enjoyed because it's a very personal exchange.
Give us some examples of breaking new ground for women in the sector.
Well, I don't know whether it's fortunate or unfortunate, but in terms of my career, when I went on to different mine sites in Africa, it was very unusual to have a young woman offering advice or consulting with a senior leadership team. So I think even from just a mindfulness, even just a, you know, this is something that can happen perspective, I broke new ground in that regard. But the even tougher step was getting people to, you know, believe that I was credible as a person to be doing that job. And every site with a different problem, with a different stakeholder group, I had to build that credibility and that trust again. I've been really proud that I look back at it and I can say that I've managed to do that. And while I think it's been good from a growth perspective, it has been challenging.
Tell us how you've contributed to building sustainable gender diversity within the sector.
I really love that question. In the 2 contracts that I've negotiated over the past year, building diversity was a key objective. In both contracts, we were very deliberate and mindful about how we went about it. So BHP will incentivize its suppliers to be more diverse, both in terms of gender as well as Indigenous participation. And we're very thoughtful about how we do that. So what does the current work base look like? What does it cost to train people, to recruit them, to retain them? What's important to women in the workplace? And I really feel that by driving that, not just within the company, but within the supplier landscape, BHP is going to make a marked change in the industry, and I'm really proud that I was a part of that. On a more personal note, I've got a few mentees back in Africa, but I have my first Australian mentee, and she's a graduate, and I thoroughly enjoy working with her, and I'm sure she's going to be an applicant to this program one day soon.
Can you tell us about your current role?
Well, I've actually just been promoted, so I've been in my current role for a month now. I'm very excited. The title is Manager Business Improvement, and I report directly to the Head of Production Execution for BMA. I feel extremely fortunate to be in this role. My boss is known as a change maker and has a proven history of making big changes and making things happen. So I think we're in for a period of really, really big, exciting improvements, and that's my job, is to help him deliver those improvements. Ultimately, what I think is so fantastic is he will always talk about it as serving the front line, and I like to think that that's what we do every day, is enable the front line to do their jobs safely.
What are your qualifications and how do you continue to grow?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I actually have a Bachelor of Arts, Bachelor of Laws, so I've found that I've been on a very steep learning curve throughout my time in the industry. But every engagement and every job that I've had so far has been a completely new experience. So, like I said, done Mozambique, improving the availability of a truck fleet, and been in Zambia and worked on a grade control drilling contract, and gone to Senegal and helped them do a management operating system, and been in Guinea and improved volume through a plant. So it's been different every day, and I've gone from being a category principal at BHP negotiating contracts to a manager business improvement working in production. So there's never been a period of time that's been the same, and it's all been trying to grow and push myself and think about the core skills that kind of link all those things together.